Who's not coming down the track? Who's not coming down the track? And the Nemo Street is red light. Ain't nothing finer in the rain. When the drums are marching straight to bed.
What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us on the Fans First Sports Network and as a part of Millions.co. Tonight, we are joined by Dan from the Stadium and Gale podcast to talk about the Florida Gators going into the 2025 season. If y'all have listened for a while, you know that this is the first time we have ever had someone on to talk about Florida that was not Bobby. And we love Bobby, but he doesn't always know what he's talking about. So this will be fun. How are you doing, Dan?
So much. Good. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a welcomed honor to be here and talk a little bit about the Florida Gators, which is probably the first time somebody said that in a few years down in Gainesville.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting second half of last year and then off season for Florida. And, even on our show, I'm sure I'm going to bring it up at some point in the outline, but I want to say it was a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. We were having legitimate conversations about Florida going 9-3 and being in the playoff conversation.
Yeah, there's a huge swath of Gator fans that would believe you. I think there's also a lot of cautious optimism by majority of the fan base, and then there's the kind of the doomers that never think that Billy Napier will be able to get over a 6-6, 8-5 type of season. So a lot of it really relies on team health, especially at quarterback. And my biggest takeaway my biggest thing going into this upcoming season is on coaching more than anything. We've seen a lot of blunders when it comes to game day decision making. So that's a big thing that I'm looking out for. But this is probably the most excited a Florida Gator fan has been entering a season since, I guess, that COVID year with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts and the rest of those guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's just go ahead and get into it. So, we started talking probably 2 weeks ago to arrange this conversation. And that was before the most recent injury to DJ Lagway. But that adds another layer of intrigue for the season. First and foremost, how is Lagway's backup this season?
It's the same guy as last year. It's Aiden Warner. He's a walk-on now. He started his career. He's from the Orlando area. Started his career at Yale and then transferred to Florida. And Florida saw him in the second half of the Georgia game. He wasn't asked to do much in that game, and then they saw him in the blowout game against Texas. I don't necessarily blame that loss solely on him. There is a massive gap, as you can imagine, between DJ Lagway and Aiden Warner. The Gators did bring in Harrison Bailey, who I believe is on his this is his fourth school. So he was actually recruited by Dan Mullen before he went to Tennessee. Back when he was here. So it's kind of a long winding path for Harrison Bailey to make it here. And, he's sitting third, and then fourth on the depth chart is freshman Tramel Jones. There is just a massive drop off between DJ Lagway and number 2, and then a big leap to number 3, and then obviously a giant leap to number 4 down. So everything really hinges on that from a quarterback position for DJ Lagway to stay healthy for the entirety of the season.
And with all of those injury issues, how much will that change the game plan on his usage?
That's a great question. DJ Lagway has had injury issues since arriving in Gainesville. He still has a shoulder issue that they are working through. I don't know what the end result is going to be of that in his career at Florida. It's going to be something that they have to figure out because there is an issue, a structural issue with the shoulder. At some point, that will have to get rectified, but I don't think it's going to be this year. Obviously, he injured himself against Georgia with the hamstring, and he was out for a number of weeks. And when he came back, you didn't see him as even close to a dual threat. You didn't really see him run the ball. You didn't see him score a running touchdown last season. You saw maybe a little bit more about how he might be able to use his legs in the in the bowl game against Tulane, but obviously still not fully healthy there. Goes and has a groin hernia surgery this offseason, and then is dealing with a snap count and a throw count throughout the entirety of spring practice. And then he injures himself on a treadmill where he hurt his calf a couple of weeks ago. It got probably a little bit too blown out of proportion, but I think with anything, there's just kind of been a repetition of some injuries here, not necessarily the same ones, but just kind of always something. And so there's just some question marks on just how healthy he is going into the season, how much chemistry he might have. But to give you a very long-winded answer, Florida's offense is completely different with DJ Lagway or anybody else. He's more mobile. He's obviously got the size and the speed that you want. But he's going to probably always be a pass-first quarterback. I don't ever see him as a real true dual threat, and I don't think Billy Napier would necessarily use him as such.
So with the injuries that we kind of just talked about, should expectations for DJ be tempered on how little time he has actually had to practice and play with the first team guys?
Gator Nation's not going to love me saying this. I say yes. I do want to caveat that, though, right? A lot of the guys that DJ Lagway is that are now on the first team and that he's going to be throwing to are guys that were on the second team when he was second team. So I do think that there is some chemistry there. I think DJ Lagway is a very smart student of the game. I think he's very well respected. I think his players really like him. I just don't totally know, with the amount of sheer time that he's been out and not really seen a ton of game time snaps or really, heavy practice snaps, that always gives a cause for concern. And, Gator Nation, right now, we talked about in the podcast a couple weeks ago, and I kind of got booed in the chat while we were doing it, is I think that DJ Lagway absolutely could finish the year as one of the top quarterbacks in college football, but I'm not putting him there now. I still have a lot of question marks. You want to see some things cleared up, some of his decision making and some of the hero passes that he was trying to make. You just got to see that cleaned up a little bit. But he was a true freshman, not really expected to play as much as he did last year, until Graham Mertz got injured. So I think that he has all the tools. I'm a little worried about the lack of practice that he's had, but Florida starts the year with LIU, Long Island University. If you've never heard of it, they have a football team. We'll be playing them, and then
The
USF.
Sharks, right?
Yeah, the Sharks. I believe it's LIU Brooklyn is the actual full name of the school. So yep, they're the Sharks, and you're right. It is. It's still working. It's still game time reps. And, at least it's not against Miami to start the year. You have some time to kind of get back into it. And then you have USF before you have LSU as the start of the SEC schedule.
And then, good thing, head coach, cannot remember his name right now.
Billy Napier?
Or Dan Mullen.
Oh, Jim McElwain.
Yeah, at least McElwain's not there with the Sharks. We know how.
Yeah. We'd be worried. I'd be very worried.
So how long into the season do you, if everything goes right, nobody gets injured, and I know that's fantasy world that we like to live in August. But if nobody gets injured, how many weeks into the season do you think it'll take DJ to get fully up to speed with the offense and the chemistry with the guys?
I don't totally know. I think it's going to take a while. Florida's replacing. Let's see. They're starting X is going to be J. Michael Sturdivant. He came from UCLA, so he's new into the program. Trey Wilson is going to be your X. He is been injured in each of the last two seasons, so he's going to be coming back. I think he played a total of 4 games last year. You'll have Aiden Mizell, who really hasn't had a ton of snaps, as potentially that third wide receiver, or Khalil Jackson, who's coming back. 5-star freshman Dallas Wilson. You just have a lot of question marks there that I'm just not 100% sure how they're all going to jive. That's an exceptionally athletic group of kids and some highly ranked 4-stars and 5-star kids in that bunch, but it's all relatively new. So that's what makes me a little bit worried. I would really hope you have to be clicking by LSU, because you have LSU and then Miami. And if you're not, and then I think the week after that is Texas. So you got to figure it out pretty quickly. You don't have a long ramp up this year.
Well, if Brian Kelly's LSU defenses are any indication, there would be plenty of opportunity in that game.
Yeah, no, we beat them last year, and certainly that was a big feather in the Gators' cap. They've been kind of a tough win for the Gators recently. I think they only have 2 or 3 wins against LSU in the last 10 years. They lost on that infamous shoe throw game. But I think that by then that's really where you have to start benchmarking yourself. Florida is lucky that, they should be able to beat LIU and USF while working on some things to get things going. But, again, it's a matter of, how healthy is DJ Lagway and how much utilization is he going to get to his full capacity. He practiced fully yesterday. Everything looked fine. So, the program is kind of controlled like Fort Knox over there. They do a really good job of really limiting you as a media person or really as a fan of truly know. Yeah, and they all come from the same tree, the Nick Saban tree of, God forbid a fan be interested in the program. So you just kind of are in a little bit of a limbo of how serious things are.
Mike, you want to go ahead and get into running backs?
Yes, sir. All right. So last year, Montrell Johnson he beat out Trevor Etienne, and there was a much ado about that. But Montrell Johnson was named out of the running back room last year. Jaden Ball, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah, no, you got it.
Yeah, there we go. Ended up with more yards, and Jacoby Jackson ended up with a lot more playing time as well. So is there a guy behind Ball and Jackson that you could be fighting for playing time this year?
Yeah, so those two are a really good 1-2 punch. Outside of that, you have 2 guys that I think you'll see quite a bit of, and I'm really curious to see how Florida uses all 4 of these guys, and there's probably a 5th that we could throw in there. So it's going to be Ball starting and then Jacoby Jackson. I personally think Jacoby Jackson is a slightly better overall player than Jaden Ball. Jaden Ball knows how to hit the hole a little bit quicker. He might be a tinge faster and an exceptional player. I just think Jacoby Jackson kind of runs a little bit like Frank Gore did. Probably not as good. I mean, Frank Gore is an NFL Hall of Famer, right? But I think that's the kind of style he has. After that, you have Trayon Webb, who was going to probably be what Jacoby Jackson's position was last year, but he got hurt before the season started, I believe. So we didn't get to see much of him until the end of the year. We saw him as a freshman. He's, kind of a bruiser. He's a super smart kid, a guy that you want on your team, even if he doesn't play a ton. And then KD Daniels, he played a bit against Tulane. He had a scamper for 35 yards for a touchdown against Tulane last year in the bowl game, but he redshirted, and he's your very fast, kind of twitchy scat back that they're going to have. So, I think that Florida's going to really try to be a pretty large running back by committee, and I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 of those guys got some pretty meaningful playing time. Obviously, Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson would be the guy that towed the rock a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Trayon Webb or KD Daniels in the first and second quarter trying to keep Jackson and Ball, fresh for the third and fourth quarter in games that it matters.
Which one of them would you prefer to be your 1A in that quartet?
I would like Jacoby Jackson, then Jaden Ball, then KD Daniels, just because I think he's different than the others. And then probably a 2B. So it's like 1A, 1B, and then 2A, 2B, because I really don't think you can go wrong. I do think that there is a drop-off between, what Ball and Jackson are and then what Webb and Daniels are. But I think if you can keep teams guessing, I think that Florida really does have one of the more underrated back rooms in college football. I think, at least, they're just not your super flashy names, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, especially with Florida having a pretty good offensive line going into next year.
This is something that we've hit on throughout the offseason. We kind of run out of time, so I want to do a deep dive and a full episode on it. But I think this year is the return of the back across all of college football, with the way that I think the tune of a lot of teams having 1,000-yard rushers is gone. I think running back by committee, 3 and 4 guys, pretty much every school has a guy that can get 1,000 yards, but they try to keep the miles off of them. So you have every school has 3 or 4 names, except for, last year, LSU and Ole Miss just had injuries galore, and for whatever reason, Lane Kiffin hates Ulysses Bentley, who was the best running back they had last year. Lane Kiffin's an enigma, but that's outside of the point. But I agree. I think just about every school, especially across the SEC, is an underrated running back room because nobody has that guy. I mean, Texas, just because they get talked about so much, like obviously C.J. Baxter and Trey Wisner, but Trey Wisner had a lot of fumbles last year. He's only that guy because of the logo on the helmet, in all reality. Like every school has 3 of those guys, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're replacing your number 2 rusher from last season in Montrell Johnson, and he, was dealing with an injury too, and he was, the premier back in 23 and in 22. So losing him, especially as a pass blocker, is going to be tough, right? There's no part of me that is happy that he's gone, but I do think that Florida is just going to fill in just really nice. They've got a lot of strength back there. They're all smart. They all seem to really be good students of the game, right? They're a little bit more mature in their age or in their just game intelligence or who they are. So that's a group that I know a lot of Gator fans are excited about watching just because I think they see the potential. And I think that that's one of the things that, could really help Florida is that we feel like we have the guys now and we're finally have the recruiting and you don't have to go in every year and try to rebuild a roster. And, I think Florida got, 9 guys in the transfer portal this year. So it wasn't a massive overhaul. So it's like, these are your guys and there's a lot of promise, but, some of it is prognostication and hope that in the off season, these guys got significantly, better and more mature because there's just so much riding on this running back room that if they can be what Gator fans think they can be, that makes the passing game work just so much better and helps out DJ Lagway. But if Lagway has to play hero ball, especially if he's not 100% healthy, that just really throws a wrench into what I think this season could be.
So moving over into the passing game just a little bit, the wide receiver room was just another part of the offense that got hit hard with up-and-coming wide receiver Trey Wilson going down with a hip injury last year. Yeah. Is there any word out of the program about his recovery? Because hip injuries aren't something you hear a ton about.
Yeah, I don't want to break news. He's dealing with something right now from yesterday. I'm not in the breaking news game. I'll leave that to the media people. But he got hit with something yesterday, unfortunately, in practice. His hip is fine. He was fully healthy this past offseason as well, working out. So I'm not too worried about that. As far as I know, it's kind of a day-to-day thing that he's dealing with now. So he should be back pretty soon. And he's an electric player. He's not Percy Harvin, but he is a Percy Harvin type first step, make you miss twitch guy, right? He's probably 30 pounds lighter than Percy Harvin. And I would never compare a player to Percy Harvin, but he's that guy. But I think what a lot of Florida fans want to see out of him is just some growth in his route tree and what he's able to do. Florida throws a lot of players into motion. I would imagine that Trey Wilson probably runs close to a half marathon in a game, just going back and forth from the left to the right. But, there's a lot of excitement about him and what he can be. He's a freshman All-American, I believe, or at least a freshman All-SEC player. Last season, it certainly was not great that he went down, but you're replacing your top 2 players in Elijah Badger and Shim DK, and you're going to be counting on a lot of potential and speed and hope, but there's just not a lot of returning production when it comes to the wide receiver, just overall receiving yards returning next year or this upcoming year.
So you kind of hit on this question, but I'm going to word it a little bit differently. You already talked about DK and Badger being off to the NFL. So outside of Trey Wilson, who are you most excited to see catch passes this year?
I think everybody got excited about watching with Dallas Wilson, the 5-star freshman that Florida is able to get. He was going to go to Oregon, went with them after National Signing Day. Some things happen in his life and he ends up coming to Florida. I think he goes for 200 and some odd yards in the spring game. And then, the clips are now coming out of fall practice of him just burning burning DBs. There's a lot of excitement because people are like, that's the kind of receiver that Florida's been missing for a long time. He's tall. He's a possession guy. He's a 4.49 guy, but he just gets open. I'm certainly excited about, Aiden Mizell is a track star. He was a finalist in the 100-meter dash. You saw him on some deep passes. Last year at DJ Lagwin, there's a lot of connection to him. J. Michael Sturdivant is the guy that transferred from UCLA. He was at Cal before. And again, UCLA's offense was not one that is ever going to be featured in a book about how you should run an offense last year. So there's a lot of excitement about what he can be. And, as a former 4-star guy coming out of school, he's tall, he's got speed. We just don't know. So you look at the entirety of the roster. Take Hawkins is really fast. He's going to have some more playing time. There's just a lot of question marks about how these guys are going to transfer to every down players, because Florida has had to replace their top receivers every year the following year under Billy Napier. So there's, again, DJ Lagway was able to practice with a lot of these guys when he was on the second team last spring and then last fall. So we know that there's some chemistry and some connection. They have speed. They have some size. It's just right now, man, it's really tough for me to say anything more than, just hopefulness, because there's less than 1,000 yards returning, and there might even be less than 500 yards returning from last year going into this year. Now, obviously, Trey Wilson comes back, so he's a guy that's proven himself before, at least a bit, but there's not a lot, right? You go Elijah Badger at 806, Shim DK had 783, and then Eugene Wilson was third on the team with 266 yards, and he only played in 4 games, right? Aiden Mizell played in 12 games. He only had 202 yards. Take Hawkins only had 100, right? So you're really not talking, less than 700 returning yards.
So the younger Wilson how old is he?
He's a freshman. He's 18 years old, maybe 19.
Oh, he's 18. That's why ESPN had to stop talking about him nonstop. Makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, he's an elite player, man. He just looks. I would never compare him to a Ryan Williams or the wide receiver up at Jeremiah Smith or any of those guys. But you look at him and he's like, oh yeah, he could be that kind of prototypical lengthy, speedy wide receiver that he just kind of looks the part too. You know what I mean? There's a swag about him on the roster.
If he's anything like Marvin Harrison, he needs to get a stronger neck. Because he can just get hit with the shoulder and get knocked out.
Yeah, I don't know anything about his neck size. I'll ask around.
It's just a pet peeve of mine about Ryan Day still complaining about that hit in the Peach Bowl however many years later. And it's like, dude, he got a skinny neck. It wasn't targeting. He just got knocked out because his neck was weak.
Happens.
Yeah. It happens. Yeah. I don't know if I've heard that quote. I'm going to go look that up after the show here.
No, I'm the one that talks about his neck.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, no, it comes out of me being a big MMA fan, and
gotcha. Okay.
Guys with skinny necks get knocked out when they don't get hit very hard. And Marvin Harrison Jr. got hit in the shoulder by a shoulder and was cold on the ground.
I will tell you, this is the first time I've ever had a conversation about Marvin Harrison or Marvin Harrison Jr.'s neck size. So I appreciate you guys bringing something new to talk about, because we're talking about the Gators every Monday for 6 years now, 6.5. You're like, man, how much more can I do this? This is good content right here.
Find the obscure stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we drink before we do this, because we go down some rabbit holes.
All right, so last offensive question here. So moving to the offensive line. So the O-line's returning four of the starters from last season. So only the right tackle is being replaced. So kind of a two-part question. So how happy are you with the line from 2024, and then who's going to be the right tackle this year?
Yeah, so obviously, to answer your first part, there was the offensive line. As much as Gator fans hate it, I don't think they hate him anymore. I think there's just kind of a neutral to neutral dislike of Rob Sale, the offensive line coach. They just don't think that he's earned the paycheck that he got. And I'm like, well, it's not your money. So I don't know why you care so much about how much you're spending. But anyway, so the offensive line has gotten progressively better. And so you look at the offensive line now, Jake Slaughter, the center, who's entering his fifth year. Yeah, fifth year at UF, was an All-American last year. First team All-American. So getting him back as the quarterback of your offensive line is incredible. Austin Barber, I think is a great right tackle. I don't know how well he'll project into the NFL, but in terms of what he's been able to do, he's 6'6", 6'7", 315 pounds, moves pretty well. He's been able to do a great job protecting Lagway there on the left side. Overall, Damian George at right guard. I skipped over left guard. I'll get back to Najee Harris here in a second. Damian George, transfer from Alabama, was our right tackle 2 seasons ago. Not good at the right tackle position. They move him inside and significantly better. And you kind of hope that next year or this upcoming year that he'll just continue to get better and solidify into that role. And now some mock drafts have him as a potential draft pick at the right guard position, which is great for him and kind of what he's been able to grow. Najee Harris, your left guard. Again, a very, very good, strong player. Last year played, the full year as a sophomore. You're going to have Bryce Lovett on the right tackle side. He's a redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 321 pounds. Moving into that role, a lot of excitement about what he might be able to do, a lot of experience last season behind Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, who went to the NFL. Or at least graduated. I'm not sure which team he's on now. The Gators probably have a solid 8 or 9 players for this for the offensive line that I think you can be confident will play quite a bit next year. I love the starting 5. At least I love 4 of the 5. I don't know, what we'll see with Bryce Levitt there at right tackle yet, but a lot of the word on the street is all positive stuff. And then you finally are starting to build some depth there. They've got a pretty old offensive line, but being able to have 4 of your 5 return that did pretty well. And I think, another year in strength and conditioning, another year working together, I do think they are going to be one of the better offensive lines in the SEC. They have size, they have the weight, and they're getting some preseason accolades and certainly getting, a first team All-American back. And then, a left tackle that's very highly regarded are 2 of your most important, probably the 2 most important positions on that offensive line back. I think there's a lot of optimism and hope for that for Gator fans.
So moving over to the defensive side of the ball, looking at the numbers that the defensive front put up, it's a little confusing. So they struggled to stop the run.
Yeah.
But they made a lot of stops behind the line of scrimmage with sacks and tackles for loss. So what do they need to do to be more consistent across the board this year?
That's a great question. They have, in my opinion, one of the stronger end groups, right? So they have a position called jack and then a position called defensive end. One's more of your speed rusher and then one's more of your traditional defensive end. I'm very excited about what that looks like. Defensive tackle, you're replacing Cam Jackson, who went to the Panthers, and then you're replacing Desmond Watson, who's on the Bucks. And they're missing somebody else there. Anyway, I think that they have a lot of potential at defensive tackle. I think they are just not super proven when it comes to the depth that they have behind Caleb Banks. They got Brandon Bett, who transferred from Baylor. You have Jamari Lyons, who's coming back. He had an injury last year. And then you have Makai Boyru, who played a bit last year. He's an upcoming sophomore. Caleb Banks, I think, is one of your better defensive tackles in college football. There's some mock drafts that have him as a potential first-round player, and getting him back was huge. Jamari Lyons was going to be the starter over Caleb Banks last year before he went down. So having both of them is I think, great. You just don't have a lot of you have names and there's excitement, but even Brandon Bett, who transferred from Baylor, didn't play last year for some academic reasons. You have Tavoris Brown, who came in as an end and then has moved to defensive tackle. So these are just names to you. Like, I don't expect you to know any of these guys. I think their top two are really good. I think that they will be able to get some pressures, and I think they'll be able to maybe solidify. I think they're definitely a more athletic group. I just don't know how big of a fall off there is after that. You talk to the coaches, they think there isn't a drop off, but we're not stupid, right? So there's going to be something, and if they can stay healthy, I think they'll be fine. If they can't, I don't know what that defensive tackle, but I think they almost have an embarrassment of riches at the end position. And I think that there's Gator fans are probably the most excited about that. You have Tyreek Sapp, who has been just really kind of thrown around into a lot of different positions at Florida. He's played edge, he's played jack, he's played defensive tackle, he's had to play nose tackle at times just because they didn't have the depth there. He's finally solidified that one side of the defensive edge position. And I think, there's some people that have him as a top, 3-round draft pick next year as he goes in. And then George Gums, who is a transfer from Northern Illinois a couple years ago. He was a 100-meter runner and wide receiver in high school, and then went to NIU as a wide receiver, and then grew into a tight end, then grew into a defensive end. He looks like a Madden creative player at like 6'4", 250, and he like tucks his jersey into his shoulder pads and like shows off this six-pack. He really came on towards the end of the year, and then you have 5-star LJ McCray, and then you have Kofi Asari, who transferred from UMass, that's going to play. And then the player that I'm most excited about is a freshman named Jaden Woods. He flipped from Penn State. He's from the Kansas City area, flipped from Penn State right before signing day last year. He's put on 20 pounds already. He's up to 250 pounds. He's 6'3". He looks like he's a senior in high school. A senior in college. So there's a lot of players that Florida could have there, and I expect a lot of rotation. But they struggled mightily against the run. So, does that get better? You hope so, with some growth of these guys. Florida's not replacing a lot of guys, right? Like, you're replacing a couple guys at defensive tackle, but like a lot of Florida's roster on defense is coming back next year. So you just have to hope that other year, but you didn't have to plug in like 6 transfers, which is, a positive improvement from what we've had to do the last few years.
So, question not in the outline about defensive end.
Yeah.
Are Florida fans as excited to no longer have Brenton Cox as Georgia fans were?
Oh, yeah. He's been gone for a while now. Yeah, no, everybody gave up on him.
Yeah.
No,
and then somehow the Packers signed him. And as a Green Bay fan, I hate it.
Isn't he good?
He is good in the NFL. The problem is, when's he going to turn around and punch a ref?
Yeah.
Quay Walker's already doing that.
Whoa. Quay Walker pushed a Detroit coach, which is perfectly acceptable.
It's not, though.
Anybody that wears Detroit anything deserves to get their ass beat.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw Brenton Cox. I mean, he obviously has talent. He just could never put it together. He was not liked by Florida fans towards the end. I mean, he was kicked off the team. So
it takes a lot to get kicked off of 2 SEC teams.
It really does, especially when you didn't have a lot of talent. It's not like you were going to be replaced by another, like you were being replaced by like a 3-star. But that's not good. But, maybe he turned his life around and figured it out. And, he's making more money than I am right now. So how much of a hater can I be?
That's fair. I mean,
but I tell you, when he came to Florida, there was a lot of tweets, like, this is all we needed. He's not all we needed. No,
there were a lot of tweets when we got ETN too. And he was good, and he didn't like fight people, but we told you he couldn't pass block, and he got mad, and his mom got mad and started blocking people on Twitter and talking about it. We're like, man, we're just calling a spade here. I didn't say anything because I don't like to throw players under the bus, because like, I don't know their assignment on everything, which is why, like, when I look at Pro Football Focus, I'm always like, like, let's have an asterisk. But I'm like, with my eyeballs, like, I can tell you he was not put out on passing plays for the last half of the year. But, I have no ill will towards him. A lot of these guys are like, he went to Florida, he should never transfer to a rival. And like, while I get that, like, you've got to put yourself in the best opportunity for your future. Yeah.
I mean,
that's how we are with everyone except for Brenton Cox, because he just, man, like, I'm sure you've seen the clip, but another player is trying to be like, hey, on this play, you should have done this. I'm a senior projected to be a top 2 round draft pick. You're a true freshman. Probably listen. And then Britton Cox started swinging, and then he was shortly no longer on the team.
Yeah, I think he had an issue, a physical altercation at UF as well. I don't know if that ever came out.
Well,
Yeah.
I would love to hear about that, not on internet airwaves.
Yeah, we can talk about it after. Like when Percy Harvin punched Coach Gonzalez in practice. He was not suspended.
Every story that you hear about Percy Harvin makes you like him more.
Yeah.
He just smoked weed and failed a lot of drug tests, and they kept saying it was migraines. And I think he does have true migraine issues, which I don't have them, but my mother can get migraines, and it just sounds like the worst thing in the world. So I do, I sympathize with him, but he was in my opinion, a top 5 college football player of all time. He doesn't have the stats. He doesn't have all of that, but just as a football player, like that is one of the top 5 guys that I would take to start a team that's not a quarterback, right?
Oh, for sure. Of people that can change the game every single play they're on the field. Yeah. He is top 5 in that category all time.
Yeah, he's a bowling ball. He can return punts, return kicks, can be a wide receiver, can be a running back. He was a high school quarterback too, so he can do it all. Miss that guy.
We really needed Percy Harvin and Johnny Manziel on the same team.
We didn't need that. We didn't need that. We had it with Tim Tebow. Timothy Richard Tebow.
Look, as a person, I love Tim Tebow. He's, from everything I've heard, he's not the kind of guy that was going to take a private jet to Vegas on Friday night before a game and get you back in the morning to play.
No, I don't know if Tim Tebow's ever been to Vegas by choice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
probably. I mean, he's probably gone there, to speak or to, probably stop
they have
some
churches in Vegas.
But they're more for getting that quick marriage to a prostitute than getting annulled the next day. But I'm sure, he's married to Miss Universe. He's got a huge foundation, a former first-round draft pick, a Heisman Trophy. I mean,
one of the best humans to ever play the sport of football.
Yeah, indeed. He can't catch an L anywhere.
No. Getting back to what we were actually talking about, how much is the team going to miss Desmond Watson? I know he wasn't an every down player, but when I think about Desmond Watson as an opposing team's fan, I just think about where he destroyed people against Tennessee and those type of plays.
Yeah, I mean Desmond Watson, he's still he got signed as an undrafted free agent by the Bucs, and they don't have him practicing right now because he does have some issues obviously with eating, and you're like, duh, Dan, he's over 400 pounds, but he really does have some issues that I don't know how you handle, right? So I don't think we ever got to see Desmond Watson live up to his full potential. We did see him play running back and get a first down on a 1-yard run against Tulane. And I don't think I've ever seen a team more excited about getting 1 yard other than maybe something like super consequential in my entire life at that game. That was really cool to see. He was a good guy. He didn't play a ton. He was a space eater. Obviously, he's fast for his size, but I think that Florida is athletically more gifted now without him. But I think that he was a great Gator and nice guy, very nice kid. I hope that he can figure out all of the things that he's working. I just wonder if he would have stayed on plan, and lost a lot of the weight and kept it off, what could have been with him. But, he got signed. I think he was one of the highest paid undrafted free agents that was signed this offseason. So people have excitement about him. He's just got to probably lose, no joke, like 50 or 60 pounds.
Right. And this is something, actually, we spent a hot minute talking about this last week because I like when pro teams go about doing things the right way, and the Bucs signed him and then put him on the injured list in a way that he was still covered under insurance and could still eat with the team and work out with the team. And
but doesn't need to eat with the team.
Well, with the nutrition program, right? And I hate the Dodgers, but the way that they signed that one guy to a 1 year, $1 contract every year, I
Yeah.
love when billion-dollar corporations do things the right way, and I think they're trying to with him.
I think, yeah, and people are wondering like, well, if he's not practicing, like he's not going to lose weight that way, and it's like it's a punishment of taking it away of the decisions that you're making off the field, and if everybody else is making sacrifices and things that they're doing, so I hope it works out for him. I've got a friend of mine, more of an acquaintance, I guess. That's one of the team physical therapists, and I know that they're trying and everything else. So I hope it works out for him. But again, a great Gator. But I do think that Florida is going to be a little bit more athletic at that defense tackle position.
Sure. So the linebacker room took a pretty significant hit with Shamar James getting drafted.
Yeah.
Inside linebackers, I call him, and I'm sure other people do too, the quarterback of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
But with James being one of the leaders on the defense, who steps up to his role in 2025?
Yeah, again, this is one of those positions that you love what the potential could be, right? Miles Graham is a sophomore, son of former Gator running back Ernest Graham. He played quite a bit last year. He's a 5-star coming out of high school. He's going to be a sophomore. Pup Howard, transfer from South Carolina. He came in, played well. My favorite linebacker is Jaden Robinson, number 29. He really came on towards the end of the year as well. And then you enter Aaron Childs, who looks like, again, another Madden creative player, 6'3", 244, wears his jersey tucked in, has a six-pack, all of that. Again, these are all guys that got some significant playing time. Jaden Robinson and Pup Howard were starters along with Shamar James last year. I think Derek Wingo played sparingly in there as well, but towards the end of the year, it was really those two, and then Miles Graham got quite a bit of burn last year as well. So your starting three will be Graham, Howard, and Robinson, with Aaron Childs coming in, as needed, and he can play, really middle or outside there. And then they have a freshman named Ty Jackson from down in South Florida, who they're really high on too. But I think that first four is very good. They don't have a lot of depth there. They have, some freshmen and some walk-ons that you just don't necessarily want to see out there this upcoming year. So if they can stay healthy, it's a very athletic group. All of those guys were highly recruited. I think Jaden Robinson was not super highly recruited. He comes from the Lake City area there in just north of Gainesville. But last year, I thought that he was their best linebacker. I thought Shamar James was good. He goes to the NFL, and I wish him success. But I don't think Shamar, in the time that he was at Florida, ever really reached the potential that a lot of people thought he would, as this really highly ranked 4-star guy that you flip from Alabama and is like, you're good, but like, when are you going to take that next step? Like, I don't know how much better. And I never played in the NFL, and I certainly was never a linebacker. So I don't know. There's obviously things that he did well enough that he goes to the NFL and he gets to, live out that dream now. But I don't know if I could tell you, oh, this got better from his first year to his second year to his third year. But we'll see. Again, it's still young, right?
Mm-hmm.
Young group.
So the secondary also had a couple guys drafted from a unit that statistically struggled last season. So what do you think they need to improve on this year?
Everything. No, they again they dealt with some injuries. Their starter, their Devin Moore, is a potential NFL DB, and depending on where you look, could, if he stays healthy for a year. The problem is going into his fourth year and has been injured all three, or he's going into his third year playing, but it was injured the last two. So I don't know, right? So there's a lot of, again, this is kind of a thing, right? There's just question marks about who and what that group looks like. So right now, you definitely have Devin Moore. Opposite of him, you have Dejon Johnson, who was part of that toast committee last year that got burned quite a bit. He's fully, he was on, he dealt with an off-season issue, but the charge got dropped, so that's good. And then former 5-star Cormani McLean, who is bulked up this year. He's from the Lakeland area here in Florida, went to Colorado with Dion, just didn't play a bunch, came to Florida as a preferred walk-on, and then earned a scholarship last year. So he looks the part now, and he was the number 1 or number 2 defensive back in that group. So those are your top 3. After that, you have Jameer Grimsley, who we didn't see much last year. You have Aaron Gates, who's going to probably play nickel. He is an unbelievable nickel player. He's a guy that could play safety or nickel. I love who Aaron Gates could be. Super smart kid. Actually, almost went to Michigan, as we were talking about before the show. Your connection there to Michigan, but came to Florida, and I think that he's a guy that if you're a fan of college football and you don't really follow the Florida Gators very much, I think that that's going to be a guy that you're going to want to keep your eye on there. After that, you're going to probably be relying on Drake Stubbs and Ben Hanks III, whose father played at UF. Those are 2 freshmen that I think are going to be able to play quite a bit this upcoming season. Drake Stubbs at safety and Ben Hanks at DB. So like we've talked about, there's a lot of potential, and these are highly ranked 4-star guys and 5-star guys that you're like, these are what you need to build out your team. But, Devin Moore, been injured. Dejon Johnson, potential, has a propensity to get burned. Cormani McClain, former 5-star, played sparingly, didn't play all that well at Colorado. So there's excitement around them, but how much are we going to see them step up into that role? I think at the safety position, they're quite a bit better in terms of what that group is going to look like and how they're going to be able to, grow this upcoming season. So, I'm more excited probably about our safeties in Jordan Castell and Bryce Thornton at safety than I am at DB. But, if they can stay healthy and if they can make the changes make the improvement that Gator fans want, I think you'll have a better DB room. But again, just like everything with this team right now, you just don't know until rubber meets the road.
All right, Mike, you can take this next one too. You put this one in here this afternoon.
I mean, if Billy Napier gets fired, though, like they're leaving a hell of a roster. If they can get a coach to keep them, there's some incredible freshmen on this team, and redshirt freshmen and sophomores that could really catapult you. If he does get fired, and the whole team doesn't leave, a hell of a better situation than Napier got with what Mullen left over.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the last couple questions are more big picture, and the troll in me is coming out a little bit here, but so we talked about this a little bit before the show as well. But what's more painful, losing to Georgia 4 years in a row, or paying Georgia Southern $500,000 to beat the Gators in the swamp?
Yeah, I mean, I think losing to Georgia, however many times it's been 4. How many times before that was it? I know we beat you that year where we were down 14-0. Then Kyle Trask just.
COVID year, yeah.
I mean, he went stealth bombers on Iranian nuclear facilities against you guys. That was just a hell of a game.
That was one of the best individual performances I truly think in a cocktail party ever by Kyle Trask in 2020.
Like him and like Jarvis Jones, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jarvis Jones was a hell of a player. I hate Georgia. I really do. I don't hate the people. I don't hate the people. I hate what your program stands for. I'm glad that I don't have to drive on the roads of Athens each and every day.
We feel the same way about Gainesville.
I've consistently donated to the Benevolent Foundation for the Athens Police Department to make sure that they're taken care of, because I know that you guys have them working overtime these days. Losing to Georgia Southern stinks, obviously. They don't complete a pass. I think they're the only team that's ever, it's the biggest upset, one of the biggest upsets in college sports, the fact that they didn't do it. They had that triple option. At that point, Florida was just so beaten down. They were starting, I think, Malik Zaire or Skylar Morningweg. I don't remember who it was, but whoever it was shouldn't have had a college. I
thought 2014 was the Treon Harris year.
I thought Treon Harris was the year after. Again, things kind of run together. I'm getting older.
They're all the same.
Yeah. We hate 2015, so it's okay.
Yeah, hell yeah. But no, I think losing to Georgia matters more. Florida was what, 4-5 at that point. Is that what that says? Yeah. So they're 4-5 at that point. They ended up, finishing the season 4-8, losing to FSU after that. and I forgot who else they lost to. Yeah, it sucks, right? And the trolls are still there, but now things matter. And beating Georgia, we play them every year. You can say it's a one-off fluke game. You play them again, and the game probably doesn't go that way.
Right.
But every loss that we've had to Georgia, you play that game again, and Florida's still going to lose. So that's the hardest part, right? And like as you see them recruiting a little bit better and starting to do a little bit better, you're still far behind Georgia. Although I do think Georgia's going to take a little bit of a step back this year, maybe. But you still are far back, and they are still so far in your. We're still so far in your rearview mirror, kind of like your wide receivers with the police when they're on a neighborhood road in Athens.
Wide receivers with the football on the ground.
Yeah, well, that too, right?
Yeah.
I hate losing to Georgia, right? And people are like, "Oh, FSU's our biggest rival." You guys are idiots. Georgia's our biggest rival because it matters more. And I hate that when I was there, we beat you freshman year. The next year is a year you guys stormed the field and celebrated. Yeah, you did that. And then the next year was the year that Brandon Spikes took out Nosha Moreno's eyeballs. And then the year after that, there wasn't really much of a fight in 2009. So I love that game. I want that game because I think it's one of the coolest atmospheres, other than it being in Jacksonville. It's one of the coolest atmospheres that you could have in college sports. And when they're
awesome, if you don't mind getting shot at after the game.
I was just gonna say Jacksonville is my least favorite city in the United States, and the internet knows that. I take digs at them whenever I can. It could be great. They just choose not to. But I think it could be one of the greatest rivalry. I mean, I think it is one of the greatest rivalry in sports. But I think it could be one of the best football games. It's just been a shame that's not, really been that the last probably 15 years now.
So, on the vein of the Georgia-Florida game, 2 questions. How do you feel about the Orlando-Atlanta situation while Jacksonville's under construction?
Oh, it's going to be in Tampa.
Okay.
Tampa and Atlanta.
Yeah, you love it.
I love it because I can see the stadium there, and that's going to be cool.
Raymond James, one of the coolest stadiums in the country.
Yeah, could use some infrastructure work, but it is cool. Especially with the pirate ship. They're going to be building a new stadium here soon. They should be announcing that in probably the next 6 to 8 months here. They're going to build it on the end of it. Anyway, so I don't need to be breaking news on your podcast about stuff that I don't talk about. So I love that it's in Tampa. I think it's cool. I would have much rather it been in Gainesville and in Athens.
Same.
Yeah.
Most Gator fans will never go to a game in Athens, and most Georgia fans will never go to a game in Gainesville.
I'd love to go back. I've been once.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be really cool, right? I've been to Athens, and I'll never go to a football game in Athens for obvious reasons. But I thought that would have been really cool, at least for that one time. I know that money drives everything, but I just don't know, like, with the amount of money in football, like how much more – like, did that money really make an impact?
Allegedly, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium people, I don't know which organization or corporation it is that's doing this. Allegedly, each school for the game in Atlanta is taking home upwards of $10 million plus, like, ticket sales and whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, great. I don't know how much. It's a stupid sentence, right? But I don't know how much $10 million really moves the needle for either program. I know that you're now going to do, player payouts and everything else. And so that might have really factored into the decision a lot more. And I don't pretend to understand all of the finances that go into, these, running these athletic departments and everything else. But with the surpluses that these schools run and everything else, I get why they did it. The same way that Georgia and Georgia Tech's now going to be played at Mercedes-Benz.
Oh,
if somebody's going to throw.
Hate it.
Yeah.
I posted a meme yesterday from Step Brothers that said, I'll never call it the Atlanta Gridiron Classic presented by Invesco QQQ, even if there's a fire.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hate it. I wish it would have been in Gainesville and in Athens, but certainly Mercedes-Benz is a world-class stadium, and,
it is.
Playing in Tampa is, great for somebody that lives there like I do.
Yeah. No, I love Tampa, and the only thing I have negative to say about the Swamp is it's so steep.
Yeah, it is.
I got free tickets to go to a game a few years ago and drove down because, like I said, we live in Savannah. It was the Florida, South Carolina, 2022, I think it was.
Is that
South
the year that we
Carolina's
went
only
up like
touchdown
21 to
was the fake
nothing?
field goal.
Yeah.
That one. Yep.
Yeah.
Free tickets to that game, drove down, went. I was wearing my Jordan Davis Georgia jersey. Got a lot of weird looks and questions, but everybody was cool until I started walking out of the stadium, and then people wanted to yell at me, and it's like, dude, I've been here
Yeah.
for 3.5 hours. Like, I would have loved to have a conversation with you. I wore Brave stuff to the Mets stadium. Like, I don't I'm the type of person I would love to sit down and talk to you,
Yeah.
but no, I love the swamp. The environment was awesome, but it was steep enough to where even sober me was like, man, if I got in here after tailgating, I might break something.
Yeah, they're going to do a lot of renovations to it. I think that's going to start in the next couple of years. They're still working out like what the plan's going to be and everything else. Obviously, it's going to still be steep. They're going to be taking some seats out of the stadium and kind of reconfiguring some of the stuff that they have over there. It is steep, and it also needs to be pressure washed. I'm like, man, why does it look so dirty all the time?
I can tell you that my free seats, I was sitting on just bare concrete. Like you can tell there used to be paint there.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it could use a little bit of a refresh there. Those bleachers, they get stood on and everything else. So
Yeah.
I understand why they're going to be wobbly, but like, let's just get an Allen wrench or a ratchet in there. Let's tighten those up a little bit because you just kind of feel like you're leaning forward. But I love the swamp.
I will say for the first time in like 15 years, Georgia is upgrading their season ticket holder seat backs
Okay.
where they're like mesh and not like egg crate padding covered in
Nice.
red vinyl.
Okay.
And after going to that Tennessee game where it rained the entire time, I appreciate not sitting down in rain anymore.
Yeah, we'll have our seat backs. I don't think that they changed them this year, but at least they don't look like the office chairs that FSU just installed. If you haven't seen what those look like, just
Man,
imagine your traditional office chair. That's what they've got there,
really
and they're
need
black. Very smart.
we need we need some sort of investigative documentary on the downfall of Florida State and then Spike and then re-downfall.
Oh, I've prayed for it, man.
But I
It's-
want to know the ins and outs of what happened between Jimbo Fisher's national title and then, what happened in 2023 and then 2-10.
it all started when his ex-wife cheated on him, so just all downhill from there. With a former Florida Gator great,
Jimbo?
Interesting.
Jimbo's wife. Yeah, Candy.
See, that
You
sounds
guys
like
know.
Steve Sarkisian's future. Anyways, I'm not going to go there. I just, for whatever reason, I have a personal hatred for Steve Sarkisian, and I think it's because he looks like a sleazy injury attorney that got lost in the film room.
I can see that. I can
So
see that.
if you just Google Jamie Casino, Savannah injury attorney,
It's
I've
him.
never seen the same two in the same room.
Jamie Casino, injury attorney, Savannah personal injury images. Oh, yeah, I can see it. He kind of looks like, what's his name? That's the head coach of Iowa State.
Yeah,
Oh,
I can see
Matt
that.
Campbell, right?
Matt Campbell.
Yeah, Matt Campbell.
But what drives me nuts is Jamie Casino, he sponsors like half of the like cutaways at our minor league hockey team.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, we have that loser John Morgan here.
Well, yeah, and every time I see Jamie Casino, I think of Steve Sarkisian. It makes me mad.
Yeah, John Morgan. Not to go off a tangent here, but
all for
he's a Gator undergrad and law school grad, and he owns the largest personal injury attorney or office in the
John
world.
Morgan at Morgan and Morgan.
Yeah, loser. He gives NIL money to Kentucky and not to Florida because he's like, they know how to win, which was, I thought, very funny because he said that before the basketball season started. And obviously, Florida won the national championship. So he's been a lot more quiet.
Basketball's not a real sport.
Well,
until Jordan's
because
good
you
at
guys
it's not
got
a real
Mike
sport.
White. That's because you guys hired Mike White, and we
Whoa.
appreciate that. I will
Whoa.
always have a special place in my heart for you guys hiring Mike White. Thank you.
Okay, if you look at what Mark Fox did and then at what Mike White is doing, it is a significant step up.
I agree. Shout out to you guys. Keep Mike White as long as you want. You guys are in the Mike
Well,
White
the problem
cyclone.
is people started going to Georgia basketball games again, and if they keep failing except for, obviously when they beat Florida this year, if they keep failing when they have the opportunity to do well, he won't be here much longer. But man, Mark Fox just made everyone sad.
Yeah, and Mike White's going to make you sad too, just in a different way.
But the team at least plays defense now, unlike Tom Crean's teams.
Yeah, they'll
Correct.
go on a 9-minute scoring drought, but they do play defense, and he will be better. And you guys made the tournament. Actually the very first pick, and I'm not trolling here. I'm not trying to be like a dick, but pardon my language.
No, we're okay.
The first pick I made in the entire pool was you guys losing in the first round. I didn't even know who you were playing. I'm like, out. But
Yeah,
you guys
I
will
mean-
get better. You guys will be. I mean, Jordan, you're there, right? I mean, outside of Anthony
we're
Edwards,
better.
you haven't had much.
And you know what? For sports other than football and baseball, I'm a little mad at what happened in baseball this year. But for sports other than football, I just want to be better than last year. Every year, all I care about is better than last year.
Yeah. No, and you guys will have some success with Mike White. But I do want to just say thank you. You guys got better and we got better. So you don't get a lot of win-win situations.
I mean, when you guys win the women's outdoor track and field national championship a week after the equestrian national championship,
You guys are on a heater.
Talk about.
Yeah.
We'll talk about.
Yeah, you guys are on a heater.
Florida's definitely
Everything
not an
school.
everything school.
Yeah, you're the everything
Everything
school.
school.
Okay. All right. Well, I always thought it was in Gainesville, but I mean, you guys equestrian, wow.
Big horse girl fans,
women's
man.
tennis in the same week too. They did.
Yeah.
The athletic department did go 3 for 3 in a week in May.
Is Garrity still there? McGarrity?
Yeah.
No. It's
No.
Josh Brooks now. The
Yes.
athletic.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's why we're finally having another concert in Sanford, and they got the lights and finally did a stadium renovation and have an indoor facility, and it's all because Greg McGarrity decided that it wasn't the Great Depression and retired, because when he retired, Georgia was sitting on something like $150 million in savings.
Nice.
And then they were like, hey, well, you remember how we couldn't recruit because no indoor facilities or stadium upgrades, and our locker room looked like it was from the 80s because it was? Like, maybe $150 million could fix some of those problems.
Yeah, no, I wish the Swamp, I got to see Garth Brooks at the Swamp probably 8 years ago, and that was awesome. And I'm surprised that they don't do it more. Like, it doesn't have to be a concert venue, right? I think it was during the summer. I don't really remember.
Yeah, but just like
no, I
once
think
every
it was
couple
the
years.
spring. The weather was fine. But like a concert or two concerts, like how many places can hold 100,000 people? I mean, Raymond James can't, and it's not like you have to do it every year or do multiple a year. I'm just surprised that more schools don't. And what a boon it could be for Athens or Gainesville in an off year, or College Station.
Athens is doing
in
a
the off
concert
season.
in April of this year in Sanford. I don't know
Who do you
it
guys
is.
got?
They haven't announced it yet.
We don't know. Hopefully, it's not what's his face.
I've already signed up to buy tickets, so
It's going to probably be Wallen or Luke Combs.
No, we need Alan Jackson and Jeezy to do.
Alan Jackson just retired, my man.
He would come back.
Every man has a price.
I don't know. I think his health's going.
It is.
I love Alan
Okay,
Jackson.
look, I watched Brooks and Dunn a couple years ago in Savannah when they couldn't move their hands, and they were doing like the old man point for half of their songs. Alan Jackson can do 2 hours in April in Sanford.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that he does, you could always get George Strait. I know he's from Texas, but he stopped touring 6 years ago, and he's still touring.
Well, I remember his retirement tour when I was a kid.
Yeah. The Cowboy Rides Away. Oh, that one. Yeah. We've got a whole lot of nothing here.
Yeah. So anyways, back to Georgia, Florida football stuff. The over-under for this season that I saw is set at 6.5. So what side are we putting the mortgage on?
I need to look at the schedule here real quick.
I'm
gonna go over. So LIU.
I think we're both over.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
we
I'm
all are, yeah.
over. People are talking 9-3, 10-2. I don't. We did a live event a couple last Sunday up in Gainesville, and I screamed 12-0 into the microphone because everybody's being realistic. I'm like, dude, we haven't lost until we lost, right? I'm going to take the over. I think, looking at this right now, I can count 6 wins pretty easily with Florida State, Kentucky, Georgia, Mississippi State, South. No, I'm just kidding. So LIU is a win. South Florida is a win. LSU. I don't know. So we'll do TBD there. Miami. I think we beat Miami. I think that.
Well, I do too. You have Carson Beck as
Right.
Yeah,
He's gonna do his best to fuck up the game.
Yeah, I think he is. And if he couldn't get it done at Georgia with all the talent that you guys have at receiver, running back, and then especially at offensive line, I think that Florida takes that one back this year.
And he goes to a less talented team with a worse defense.
Yeah, and didn't
Mario
he deal with
Cristobal.
an injury too? And Mario Cristobal. I don't think we beat Texas. I think that Texas could, have the roster for a national championship. We play Texas A&M again. I'll tell you what, guys, I'm tired of playing Texas A&M, and I think you guys have played them once since they joined the SEC. This is the 5th time since 2017 we've played them.
I truly believe that Greg Sankey has a comedic side to him.
Mm-hmm.
And once A&M fans complained that Georgia has never played in Kyle Field, Greg Sankey's like, I'm going to see how long I can drag this out.
Yeah,
we all want it. We all want it. Just never playing
Georgia
college.
was closer to playing Texas A&M in the SEC title game last year than they have ever been to playing in Kyle Field.
It's just weird, right? And I know you added Texas and Oklahoma. I would like to be the scheduling person for football, right? One year you just create the schedule, and they're like, guys, I'm gonna get ahead of next year's schedule too. Just gonna flip it. Not gonna do any additional work. Just gonna flip. If you played them home, you play them away.
They finally did that this year.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Next year, the problem is they have to start all over. And Georgia's going to play Oklahoma because the SEC made them cancel that home and away.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was the Big 12 and then SEC situation. So they're going to play Oklahoma home and away, and I bet they play Mizzou because Georgia and Mizzou played every year forever. And then it'll be somebody else, and they still will not play Texas A&M.
I think Texas A&M or Texas and Georgia are probably losses for the Gators. After that, I'm having a difficult time saying I think that Florida's going to lose that game. They'll beat Florida State. Tennessee, I just don't think it's going to be that good. I think they took a step back. Not that they're
I don't think Tennessee's making a bowl game this year.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the horses. Ole Miss, I've got question marks. I don't know if Austin Simmons is that guy. I think they'll beat Kentucky. I think they'll beat Mississippi State. I think they'll beat South Florida. I think they'll beat LIU. So we're already at 6. And then if you throw LSU, Miami, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss is 50-50s, I think you win. I think Florida goes 8-4 this year. Maybe a prettier 8-4 than the 8-5 that they had last year. I think they're carrying a lot of momentum. But if they have DJ Lagley gets injured, just throw the season out. My fear is if he gets injured, they're going to be like, he was injured. Napier gets to come back for another year.
I will say, and I was on record saying this before the season last year, I thought if Florida went 8-4 last year, it was one of the more impressive 8-4s in the history of college football, given the schedule. All the hard games were away. You're playing Texas, Florida. Ole Miss was at home, but Ole Miss was a juggernaut last year. They were the SEC's poor version of Ohio State. Made for a team that ended up achieving a lot less than Ohio State's, but that's kind of outside of the point. But what's impressive to me is it seems like the players last year got that record playing for each other.
Yeah.
And not because of the coaching staff.
No, the coaching is still a giant question mark. They have a mat on special teams for all 11 players to stand on. And the fact that you have to do that is crazy to me. They call a lot of timeouts or get a lot of delay game penalties, out of TV timeouts and commercials and whatnot. So, I just hope that they get a little bit better. Is Florida, Billy Napier, promoted Russ Callaway to being the sole offensive coordinator. How much does he get, in terms of his leash, right? And is Billy Napier going to turn over the keys to, the offense in a make or break year? So we'll see. But this team does really seem to like each other. They've got a great culture. Talking to all of the players privately and publicly, they all pump each other's tires up a lot. So they definitely seem to care a lot about each other. They seem to love Billy Napier, and he's a likable, affable dude. It's just a matter of can they put it all together.
And so, second to last question, if you've got a minute for the last question here.
Yeah.
So this is something I've hinted at, I think, before we started recording, while we were recording. We think that Florida has a chance to have some playoff buzz. One surprise win, they go 9-3.
Yeah.
A very impressive 9-3 given the schedule that they've got. So what's more likely? Sunbelt Billy is unemployed before the SEC title game, or they have playoff buzz?
Assuming that the team can stay healthy, I think it's more likely that they have playoff buzz than Billy Napier getting fired. I think this is their most talented roster they've had, and really more of a complete roster than they had in that 2020 year, right? They were just a Ferrari on offense with Kyle Pitts and Kyle Trask and the rest of the guys there. I think they've got a better defense. I mean, that defense costed them, 3 out of those 4 games that they lost in 2020. If they can stay healthy and if they can make the improvements, I think it's more likely that they have playoff buzz. I think the only way that they don't go 8-4 is if the wheels kind of fall off, whether it be injuries or we were just lied to about who these players are. But I think that the talent's there. I hope that the coaching is there. But the way that they were able to rattle off those 4 straight wins to end the season, I think that they're carrying a lot of momentum, and they can kind of start off a little bit easier too with LIU and USF. And you don't have to play Miami that first game, and you kind of get drubbed at home, and then what happens to the energy and enthusiasm. So if you can build off that momentum, I think it's more likely that they have playoff buzz than he does getting fired. Because I think if the wheels fall off and they get a lot of injuries, DJ Lagway gets injured or whatever, I think there's a chance that he comes back and says, hey, you didn't get your chance at DJ Lagway, which I have different thoughts on keeping a coach around for one player. But, if he's that generational player like people think he can be, then I think that's probably even more likely. But it's like a 55-45, 60-40, not like a 90-10.
All right, so very last question. So if your favorite NFL team drafted Anthony Richardson in the first round, how would you feel?
I hate it. I'm glad that I'm a Dolphins fan, right? So for me to say that I'm a Dolphins fan is like already punishment enough. I was just glad. It's nothing against Anthony Richardson. I think that he's obviously a gifted athlete, and you saw that in the combine. The question marks existed at Florida. Like, he could throw a deep ball. He didn't throw the ball 65 yards in the air. And you've seen that some of the NFL, but he couldn't make the intermediate passes. He couldn't stay healthy. And he played timid at Florida. He was protecting his draft stock there. So I was glad. I don't think the situation of going and having to be the starting quarterback was the best situation for him. And I know in the NFL, if you draft a quarterback in the first round or even in the top 5, you have to play him. I think he still needs a lot of work. And I think he's going to be another unfortunate quarterback bust that the Gators have in the NFL. I think he's kind of already there. He's fighting for his spot against Joe Flacco right now?
Daniel Jones.
Oh, what's his face? Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones, sorry. Well, Flacco was on the team, I think, last year, right? So he's fighting for a spot against Daniel Jones, which, probably the only team in the NFL right now that has a chance where Daniel Jones would start.
Is there a player that you can think of off the top of your head that has been consistently put in worse situations than Anthony Richardson?
Yeah.
Like, part of me, even as a Georgia fan, I feel for the guy because he is a hell of an athlete, and he's going to end up selling cars or insurance in like 5 years.
No, he'll be fine. I mean, he was drafted the first round, so he hopefully has, $15-20 million to his name by the time that he leaves. And I don't think he'll necessarily be out of the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a kind of a journeyman backup. I think at Florida, Billy Napier obviously runs a different offense than Dan Mullen, which is, who he was recruited by over there. We actually almost lost him because Florida went after Carson Beck, and then Carson Beck used Florida to get a Georgia offer, and then Anthony Richardson got mad.
Which objectively is hilarious.
Yeah, the whole thing is hilarious, right? And I think that that's why Florida fans like ragging on Carson Beck, because he like trolled the Gators saying that, oh, that's, he's likely to commit, and then Georgia offers and he commits, on that first next visit. I I think some of it was, at Florida, he knew that he'd be drafted on potential. And so we never really got to see Anthony Richardson, the runner. And he's been injured every year, I think, since his freshman year of high school. So that's going to start to
Well,
add
and then
up.
he was in a
So
knee brace and did backflips after
yeah, he's
another
doing
quarterback
that.
won the game.
Yep. He's doing that. He's had some hamstring issues. He's had a lot. And so, I think he's got the raw skills, but I just don't know if he's an NFL quarterback based on that alone. There's just so much more to it than being able to throw the ball and, having, the highest vertical jump in quarterback history
He is
or whatever
the
it was.
XFL's best tight end in 2 years.
Yeah, I don't follow the NFL enough. Like as a Dolphins fan, obviously you understand why I don't follow it as closely as I should. But yeah, tough situation, but at least he got drafted, fifth overall. So hopefully he doesn't have to sell cars in the next few years.
Yeah. No, we get it. I don't. Mike being a Lions fan, and this is the most relevant they've probably ever been, is the reason he has the time to follow them. Because I said earlier, I'm a Green Bay fan, and I spend Saturdays watching college, Sundays watching games that I couldn't get to on Saturday to record on Sunday. And I think the first NFL game I watched last year was the second round of the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Mike, you are muted.
Obviously, with me being a Georgia fan and still following the Michigan too, like Saturdays are for the wins. Sundays traditionally have been just to keep me humble, but the Lions being pretty good the last couple of years, a little bit different.
And that's why you're
Yeah.
a Ghost Pirates hockey fan. So you can be depressed
Yes,
4 days of the week.
you gotta
Is
keep
that
you
is that the Savannah AHL team?
ECHL.
ECHL. Yeah.
ECHL. Okay.
So they're
Yeah.
so they're part of the Panthers organization.
Oh, are
They
they?
are.
Okay.
So like there were a couple of Ghost Pirates players that got to skate with the Stanley Cup after only winning like 30% of their games in the ECHL.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I played 12 years of hockey, so I should have known that, but my much more of an A or NHL guy, and then a little bit of the AHL. ECHL can be a little bit challenging. Orlando has a team called the Solar Bears.
Yes, they
Yeah.
Those games were
Rivals
fun
of
to go to.
Savannah.
Yeah, I can imagine. They got
Yeah.
a cool logo though. That Solar
do.
Bear is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Savannah's the Ghost Pirates, which is pretty cool team given the history of the city.
Yeah.
It should.
I think,
it should
I
be
think we're the
clear,
only
but yeah.
podcast on the internet that talks about the Ghost Pirates. I have half
Give 'em some
season
love.
tickets just a couple of rows behind the opposing goalie. So most of the time when we record during the hockey season, I have no voice from harassing some 22-year-old kid that just got out of college.
Or maybe an 18-year-old coming over from Russia.
Well, at least that guy can't understand me because I said some heinous things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think of it like imagine going from I don't know Finland and then they're like, oh, here's Savannah. What kind of culture shock that must be.
Right.
Or I think of like Florida's basketball team. You have a kid from Slovenia and it's like, oh well, here's Gainesville, right? Or
And
like
then he gets out of the airport and has to swim through the air.
yeah, exactly. You're like, what kind of culture shock you guys dealing with? But I appreciate you guys for having me on. It was a ton of fun.
We appreciate you. It's
Yeah.
Whenever you have a Georgia fan reach out, you just never know. You'll be a little more hostile.
we try to have some tasteful shit talk,
Yeah, there you go.
just
Sophisticated.
throw a couple of jabs every once in a while, but be friendly and do everything we can to learn about the team. Because if I'm going to talk shit, I want to know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Or like have a background of a game that happened like 13 years ago.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. I get it. I applaud the trolling. You can never. I don't know if we'll ever play them again. I'm sure at some point we will, but hey,
Yeah.
until then, they have the winning streak right now.
Well, and Michigan played App State a couple years ago, and they put that shit to bed.
Yeah, I
so-
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I'm still going to talk about 07.
Right, exactly. That's the problem with that. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us.
Absolutely.
I am interested to get out of here. If you got time to tell me about off-air stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Mike, close me out here, but there's nothing finer in the land.
And a Drum Noxious Georgia fan.